Spoiler mode, final warning, spoiler mode, activated.
Hey everybody, welcome to the long overdue episode of Spoiler Mode for Persona 5.
It's my fault.
It's not your fault.
I beat it last.
It's not your fault.
It's not your fault.
But we waited for you,
Yeah, you did.
because we knew you would contribute a lot to the conversation.
Oh, thanks.
With me at the end,
Us three. We're the only ones.
we're the only hope
Yeah, we're the only hope.
For Persona 5.
for Persona 5.
Put my life on hold to finish this game.
But you were obsessed with it.
Obsessed.
You loved it.
Didn't want it to end.
The person who didn't want it to end is
Yeah.
Michael P. Huber.
Yep.
Sitting next to him, Bradley Ellis.
Hello.
I'm going to be poking and prodding us throughout this conversation. Ben Moore, I reviewed Persona 5. It has been a long time since I've played
Ben,
it.
I don't mean to
but
toot Easy Allies or your own horn, but that's the best review I've ever watched of all time. Is
all
your
time?
Persona 5 review.
Wow.
When it was done, I was like, that's my favorite review of all time.
That is super high praise.
Yeah.
Thank
Loved
you.
it. Loved it. 10 out of 10. I was thinking that they should teach that review in like review teaching classes.
Oh, God.
Review etiquette.
I was like, this is the one that the teacher should like dissect and pick apart and be like, this is how you review a video game. It's
Huber,
inspiring.
I want you to know I don't handle that level of praise very well. So, but thank you. That means a lot. You guys probably go through this as reviewers, where when you're reviewing a game, there are different ways that you feel about it, right? Sometimes it's just like, yeah, I like it, but I don't feel that passion towards it. And so when you're writing it, it can be a little bit difficult because you just, that enthusiasm isn't quite there in the same way. It's very different than when you really don't like something, you know, you have a lot of reasons why, and so it comes out easily. But then in the case of like Persona 5, where you really love something, you think there's something really there, and the passion just comes so effortlessly, and the words just come, and it's like that's when reviews are their most fun, I would say.
Heck yeah.
It's really cool. But let's get into Persona 5. As I was refreshing myself, taking notes for this spoiler mode, I realized, wow, there's a lot. There's a lot to dissect. And so just to let you guys know, if this is your first time watching spoiler mode, we're not going to go and say what Persona 5 is, because this is no holds bar when it comes to spoilers. We assume that you already know what Persona 5 is, that you've already played it. So that's the assumption going in. So if you haven't played Persona 5, don't watch this video until you do.
And also, this is not Wikipedia. This is not going through academically, this happens.
Right.
This is our retrospective kind of, not a retro, but this is our look back at it, what we remember, our memories and emotions.
Exactly.
Dissecting the plot as we remember and hold deep.
Yeah. And of course, spoilers.
And
So
of
we're talking about
spoilers.
everything in this
We're talking
game.
about-
So if
well,
you haven't finished it, be
We're
advised.
talking about what comes to mind. I
Yes.
guess.
Like, we're going to talk. We're not going to be holding anything back, though, if it comes to mind.
Absolutely. Correct. Brad, I'm going to throw this first question at you
Throw it at
to
me.
get us started, to get the ball rolling. As I just said, Persona 5 is a huge game. What is the number one thing that sticks out to you about your more than 100 hours that you play Persona 5? What was the thing that you really latched onto above all others?
For some reason, I really latched onto, I think I'm like the only one with this, is Goro Akechi.
Yeah. I've seen other people like Goro Akechi, but your enthusiasm
Yeah,
for it is
like-
not
Yeah, I
super
was like,
common,
why do I
would say.
like this character so much? Everyone,
Yeah.
Like, I tell people Goro Akechi, they're like, oh, cool.
I was like, yeah, catch you
cool.
for sure, yeah.
So
He's epic.
talk to us about Goro Akechi. Goro Akechi, obviously, in the story, betrays the Phantom Thieves. He does it to get revenge on his father,
like the
Shido.
shonen rival character to me. Like, he is the Sasuke to Naruto. He is like the main character. He just went through a different situation and went down a completely different path.
Sure. What is that different path, and why do you think that path is interesting?
The path... So he has the powers just like the main character. I think the main character's canon name is Akira, actually. I think it's or Akira, something like that.
Whoa.
So it's Akira or Kira. I don't know.
Whoa.
But he has the power to like have multiple personas just like the main character, except he's had some drama, some family drama. Particularly with his father, and trying to get this acceptance to be accepted by his father the whole time. Turns out tries to be an ace detective, which I kind of liked because I liked Naoto a lot from 4.
Yes.
Like I always like the detective
Naoto's
character.
amazing.
For sure.
Like I know Huber's in the detectives.
Heck yeah.
And his redemption arc at the end is what I really loved. It wasn't like the most flashy redemption kind of things, but the spirit and the meaning behind it was there, and it did save everyone.
Heck
Right.
yeah.
you touched on a couple of things. The first one that I want to address very quickly is in terms of like child abuse, especially going through and refreshing myself on all of the stories, you realize just how much child abuse is going on. It almost seems like every other Confidant or every other subplot has something to do with some sort of like parent or relative or friend abusing a child, and it's pretty intense.
There's an underlying theme of like getting back at the adults.
Yeah, there
and like
is.
Overthrowing the adults.
Absolutely. Yeah. Let's go right into that. I would say that is a huge theme of Persona 5.
I'd say that's like the first theme we knew about Persona.
Yeah.
It's kind of like the first thing we ever saw was like the chairs and like the chain balls around their chairs, I think, like that. Like rebelling against society or something like that.
Yeah, the thing is that I like about that theme, about that rebellion, about speaking out or acting out or not giving in to injustice, is that Persona 5 goes out of its way, and it doesn't do all of these things equally well, but it goes out of its way to try to present that idea in different ways with different people in different situations. And so it starts out, you have the protagonist who is just trying to help a woman who's going to get like basically raped at the beginning of the game, assaulted. Yeah, it's a very nasty situation, and that's Shido, and Shido is like, you have no power over me. I'm the politician. And it's just this idea of, you see this with a lot of the characters in the game, but they use their stature, their place, whether it's politics, whether it's crime, whatever it is, whatever power they've achieved, they use that as leverage of being better than other people. Huber, what was your favorite instance of that manifestation? What was the part that resonated with you the most, that abusive power?
Abusive power. I mean, right from the beginning, of course, with the gym teacher abusing Soho, her name was it? Shiho, yeah. The gym teacher abusing Shiho is like a really heavy way to start this game.
Yeah, especially going from 4, which it seemed a little more lighthearted, you know?
Yeah.
Yeah, it got right into it. Him just using his power as the coach, like abusing her, also looking at On and like obsessing over her as well, and kind of like being creepy to both of them. And then Ryuji as well, the whole track team incident, and him trying to, like, his passion is being a track star, but the people in charge are making it harder for him, so he has to bounce out because they're basically abusing all the kids. So kind of the schoolhouse, like small scale abuse of power, I really, it hit me.
So with the school at the beginning, with Shujin Academy and the Kamoshida storyline really hitting home for you, what moments in particular, and more, I guess what I'm more interested in is, what did you think about after those scenes happened? Did you apply those to your own life in any way? Did they make you think about certain things? Like, what was it about it specifically that made it work in comparison to all the other stuff in that game?
It's scary. Like, Kamoshida just thinking he is like in control and better than anyone, and then he's like owed the right to abuse the girls and like be with the girls, so like going into his heart and seeing that side of him was just really intense, and then obviously changing his heart, and just that whole first act is really setting up what Persona's all about.
Yeah. Something that I really respect about Persona 5 is the way that it is very just brutally honest about some of these things. And I think Shiho is a really good example of that, where she's just so depressed she can't take it anymore. She doesn't feel like she can speak out against it because she doesn't have any power within the school. And it's this sort of helplessness that there's no like metaphor for it. Like there's no layer protecting this like abuse of a child by a teacher. It just is what it is at face value. It is like, no, you could read a report about this on the news. And I liked that because I think there are moments in all of our lives where we feel completely helpless. I mean, just the last couple of years, regardless of where you fall on the political spectrum, there's been so many horrible tragedies, natural and human-made, where it's easy to feel helpless. And there are so many situations in Persona 5 where I think they're very honest about that helplessness. There are a lot of the confidants, and a lot of characters in the main story who sort of succumb to cynicism, where something, like, they're idealistic at first, something bad happens to them, and then they're just like, well, everything's screwed. And it's easy to fall into that mindset. And something that I like about Persona 5 is the way that it uses that fantasy. So it will present this super honest situation, right, about this girl who tries to kill herself at school because of the situation that she's in. But then you have this whole fantasy element of, we're going to dress up in these costumes, we're going to go into this person's mind and steal their heart. And I think you as a player, because you can in some way relate to, I guess, the realness of that situation, it makes it even more cathartic when you go into the more fantastical element and you win and you have that victory.
Changing hearts, Ben, is like the best feeling ever. And of course they play with that later on. Should we be doing this? Are we villains, actually? We're forcing them to change their minds and change their hearts. But, Ryuji is always like, yo, this is good. Like, they're doing bad things. We are changing them to be better people. Like, there's nothing wrong with this. But it's cool, those, like, discussions,
And I think it makes the cast so likable. Not that they don't have moments of serious doubt, but there is sort of this persistence to them, where regardless of the abusive power that's going on, or whatever situations, or when people are turning against him, there is that element of hope. And I think just that message is so important. Like, no, stick with it. Fight for the right thing. Don't stray. Like, even if people have evidence against you, in your heart what's right. And, not like super complicated by any means, but I think a very important point, one that definitely resonates. Let's talk more about things that really stood out to us. Were there any of the confidant relationships that you liked a lot?
The politician.
Yoshida
hype.
Yeah.
Loved Yoshida. Because Yoshida, they call him, I forget his nickname. He was like, he was corrupt. Like, he did something. Politician. He did something corrupt in his past, and it was all about him making it right in the future. And you hang out with him, and he kind of takes you under his wing to be like the next politician. But it was an interesting perspective because of the political overtones, I guess you can say, the political nature of a lot of the game. One of the main villains, politician, and it was cool to just see him gain confidence again, speaking in front of people, and just all about him being true to himself.
Yeah.
I like to live life like it's never too late to do anything. It's never too late.
Yeah.
And that's what he was all about.
I think with so many of the adult stories, especially in the main storyline, it tends to go, hey, these people are awful and they're covering it up. You're going to uncover it. You're going to steal their hearts and they're going to apologize. Like, that happens over and over again. What's so cool about Yoshida is you're kind of coming in after the fact. After he messed up, he admits it, but there's still something inside of him that wants to be a politician, that wants to face the people who have a bad opinion of him and persevere. And it's a very different storyline than you get with a lot of the other adults. And I think that's what makes it so interesting is, like, yeah, it's interesting to tell the story of the downfall or the blow up, or, we're beating the bad guy, but it's also interesting to see what the bad guy does after they get found out.
Yeah.
And how they live with it. How do they deal with real life afterwards, and how do they stay true to themselves? Yeah. So I think, personally, Yoshida was one of my favorite Confidant stories as well. How about you, Brad?
I actually liked the doctor's one.
Yeah.
She was dealing with the old whatever medical area she worked with, people like accusing her of being a bad doctor and everything like that.
Yeah.
Like, I know you touched on this, but these all feel like very real life situations I could see happening in real life very easily.
Yeah, go ahead.
I love that also from a gameplay point. a lot of these confidants, to progress them further, you have to go into Mementos and attack someone who is related to kind of the problem in the incident.
Yeah.
Right.
So with her, I remember you go in and find the doctor,
yeah.
and he's abusing his power, obviously. Like,
Yeah.
so many people are abusing their power in Persona.
Yeah, it's kind of overwhelming, especially when you take in the Mementos storylines. Like a lot of the like mini bosses that you're fighting in Mementos are bad people who have their own mini storylines. Like you take all of them, you take the main storyline characters, you take the Confidant characters. It's a lot of bad stuff.
No, a lot of
going
bad
on.
stuff. Yeah.
With the doctor, I like her a lot because her situation is very serious. It's her having to deal with a tarnished reputation after like the person above her is jealous and all of this stuff. But I also think it's really funny that she's like trying to work on this medicine to restore her reputation, and you're the guinea pig.
Yep.
And
Yeah.
Hey, guinea pig, let's
yeah,
go.
yeah, exactly. And just the way that they talk to you
Yeah.
about
The
it.
relationship. Yeah.
Like it's kind of similar to what I was talking about with the fantasy element and the very serious element of Persona, where I don't think, and excuse my language here, I don't think Persona ever gets too far up its own ass. Like if you think of the Doctor storyline, yeah, it's a very serious situation, but they find plenty of moments to laugh or
Lighthearted
crack
moments,
a joke,
yeah.
and I think that makes it far easier to get into. It's not overbearing. It allows you to take the serious moments a little bit more at face value because they're not all the time.
Exactly, yeah. If it was just serious moments the whole time, it would just be like a heavy burden on you as the player.
I think the music also helps emphasize each situation,
Oh,
with
yeah.
some jolly tunes, lighten it up. People can be having a serious discussion, but like the music,
Yeah.
versus like, all right, slow the music down. Let's get really dramatic. Let's drive home a point. Favorite soundtrack, maybe of all time.
I don't know if
So insane.
I don't know if I was just
Yes.
getting excited to shoot this video, or if I hadn't listened to the Persona 5 soundtrack in a long time, because for a while now I've like, man, the Persona 5 soundtrack is really good, but I love Persona 4's soundtrack. I don't know if it's better than Persona 4's. And I was listening to it in the car on the way here, and it's so good.
Yeah.
It's
It's so good.
ridiculously good.
It's kind of annoying how good it is.
Yeah,
I'm
it
going
is.
to now affectionately refer to it as like the bass album, because the way that they use bass guitar, like
Yeah.
in so many of the songs, that bass guitar is just front and center riffing away, and it gives it like, whether it's rock, whether they're doing something else, it gives every track like this really nice groove that's just so easy to slide into. Like that soundtrack is incredible, and I forget the name of the woman who is singing on a lot of the tracks, but her energy, like the way she
Amazing.
like soars up to a
It's
note.
unbelievable.
Oh, it's
I can't handle it. It's annoying.
Yeah. It's annoyingly good.
That's so funny, Red.
Going on with the Confidant stuff and kind of expanding the scope of it a little bit. We talked about adults abusing kids and kids being able to really see what was going on, and then
Just
work to rebellious.
abuse in general.
Very
Yeah.
abusive game.
I think just directly comparing it to Persona 4, something that I like about Persona 5, something that I think it does better, is a general escalation. So you open up the game and you sort of have this one-on-one conflict between the protagonist and Shido, and then you've got the volleyball coach and the school, still pretty intimate, but eventually these abuses of power keep going up and up and up.
Yep.
So it goes then to organized crime, and then it goes to politics, and I feel like the Phantom Thieves are very quickly not just dealing with their own immediate problems, not just dealing with people that they know about, but they're dealing with people that have a large influence over everybody else. And I like that they take this idea of injustice and not just following along with what you've been told, and really keep going up that ladder. I mean, eventually to a god, of course, which the scene where he shoots the bullet through the head at the end is amazing. But what did you guys think about that escalation? Do you think it did it justice? Do you think it was better when it was more intimate or less intimate, or kind of consistent all throughout?
I think it was an appropriate escalation of situations. Starting out real slow, like you start from the gym teacher, at the end you're doing a politician, then a god. I feel like it would need to keep building because the Phantom Thieves themselves are getting more and more exposure and popular.
Yeah.
I feel like when they start getting the higher caliber, then they're taking on higher caliber targets, like the fast food guy. I thought it was just, because I don't know if you want to keep, I would have been disappointed if it was constantly people within your school.
Totally.
You know, like there's so much more out there. I'm glad there was just pretty much just one there and expanded outward.
Well, this is why I love Persona 5 so much. And, is because it perfectly balances large scale and small scale. Even when you're attacking larger targets, you're never losing the intimacy and the bonds that come with all of the social ranks and all of the the minor connections you have with everything. That is always there. So the game doesn't get too, like, even when it is crazy, you still have those moments where you're hanging out in Cafe LeBlanc, having some coffee with Sojiro. So it never loses that.
I completely agree with you, Huber, where there's always sort of like some string attached that makes it more meaningful than it otherwise would be. Whereas Shido, I think from a writing perspective, it would be really easy to just, of course, you eventually graduate up to a politician, and then when you get to him, you learn about everything that's going on. But the way that they start the game with him, and he's like, he's the reason the protagonist is in this shitty situation.
He's the catalyst for everything.
Right, he's the reason that everybody hates you, and you see that animosity at school very early on. There's this build-up, and then you realize that he's not just trying to take over all of Japan, but he's also been terrible to Akechi as well. He's been just very manipulative of Akechi and then all of his business associates. And even at the end, think about...
Oh, I love that, like, twist.
Hold on. Yeah, I'm getting right to it.
Yeah.
It's so good because... Just personally speaking, I've played a lot of RPGs where you have some sort of, like, big figure that's a god or some giant demon or just some ultimate force, and you just kind of learn about them at the end. But I love, and you do kind of learn about them at the end, but the way that they tie it into Igor, somebody if you've been playing Persona, you have a lot of attachment to, you kind of assume is going to be a certain way, and then they just throw everything on its head, and so they make this fight, they make this controlling god character way more interesting and personal than it otherwise would be. It's amazing.
10 out of 10.
It's like a small touch to me, but when you first meet Igor in the game, I'm like, oh, the voice actor is different. I was like, maybe they just changed the voice actor. I'm like, that's okay, that's fine, whatever. Then it comes back at the end, you're like, oh my god, dude. I never saw it coming.
I didn't remember his original voice in 4. It's like really deep.
I remember it was just really different. Oh, because you played. Okay.
Yeah.
Well, I think the original Igor guy in Japanese died. So I played in English.
Because I know his voice does change, though.
Yeah, I played in English.
Okay.
So I wasn't used to the Japanese one, so I didn't really know because all the other ones were in English.
I love a good, deep voice.
Well, yeah, who doesn't?
It's my favorite.
Yeah. But,
the problem with playing
haunting in Persona
there
5.
were like 2 or 3 times in Japanese it was kind of annoying. They did the cutscenes, the like anime ones, and it would be like a news broadcast, and there were no subtitles.
Ooh.
It was like 2, 3 parts where it was like, I missed a couple sentences. I was like,
I don't recall that. Interesting.
Yeah. But Ben, no, you were talking about the end with Shiro. Shiro? Shido. Sorry, these names.
It's okay.
So Shido, when he gets beat, when you beat him, you're like, okay, end of the game, like, sure, yeah, whatever.
Yeah.
GG. But then when it goes to like his crew and his crew carrying on the control and the abuse of power, that scene really hit me hard because, again, like so many video games, it's like, all right, you are leading up to this final boss, this main villain for so long. Sure, some weird like overarching god may come or something, but like the fact that his crew then was like, yo, we got to keep this going.
Yeah,
like,
exactly.
That scene was really good.
It's the Patriots.
Yes.
It is, yeah. It's such a good point that you bring up because this extends well beyond video games where you kind of get in this mentality of we've identified the evil. Once we take out the evil, everything's fine. That's not how it works in the real world. When you take out the evil, like that's just the figurehead. That's just the front. There are still, all of the people that were manipulating it behind the scenes, all the followers, and so I think that
there's
was
still
a great
remnants often.
touch. How when Shido confesses his crimes, that people are like, whoa, we can't have this. We got to cover this up. Yeah, totally. It was very, very good.
Sorry, I don't know if we're going out of order,
it's
but
okay.
I wanted to ask you something.
It's a free-flowing show. Yeah.
What did you think about the dungeons, especially compared to previous Persona games?
Yeah, so you have a nice progression from Persona 3 to Persona 5 in terms of dungeons, and you have Tartarus, where there's not really like a personalized theme going on. Tartarus is pretty bad. It's pretty bad. But then you have Persona 4, where thematically it ties very well into whatever character they're deciding to focus on for that dungeon, or characters, or whatever it is, whatever the theme is. But in Persona 5, it's so much better because it's not just set dressing. Like the way you're going through these dungeons, they not only the look not only matches whatever theme they're exploring, but what you're actually doing, how you're actually going through them, makes an attempt to match that theme as well, and it makes it much more interesting. And I love the idea of Phantom Thieves is not just a name, that they go out of their way to contextualize small little things like, this isn't just a rest spot, this is our safe room where we're going to get together as thieves and talk. We're going to go home and make lock picks or some other devices like that. And so it's really taking very mundane things and adding just a little bit of flair to tie everything together a little bit better. And I think overall, that is something that Persona 5 does maybe better than any Persona game that I've played, is that consistency and that tying togetherness of it all.
I will say, I think the biggest strength for me personally in these dungeons was that they're not randomly generated anymore. They were actually laid out, so the design and going through the dungeon is much more enjoyable. You don't feel like in like 3 and 4, it just kind of felt like, hallways. That's what it was like. Little room, hallway, little room, hallway. This like felt like a big structure.
Yeah.
Like the museum is my favorite one.
Museum was
like going through it felt like it had progression going through the museum, how you'd expect one to, not just random room here, random room here, random room here.
Yeah. And I like the casino.
Yes.
The casino boss fight too.
Yes.
Yeah.
Like you have to look for the rigged roulette table.
Right.
I thought that was so cool and clever.
And you go in the
I
back.
actually think the casino might be my favorite one
was so
overall,
cool.
just because it was like one surprise after another.
Yes.
Like, what sort of little
great.
game am I going to
Oh, and you got Akechi on your party in that
Yeah.
part too, dude.
Yeah.
Dude, he
Akechi's
has like the
very strong.
lightsaber, and he has Robin Hood, his persona. So cool.
Catchy hype.
So, we're about a half hour in, and we haven't really said anything critical of Persona 5, but I do have some pretty big things that especially when I reflect back, that weren't so apparent at the time, but now, given some distance, I'm like, that could have been a lot better. I think the opening and first arc of Persona 5 is pretty uniformly excellent with Kamoshida, with his palace and everything that's presented there. I think they really invest you in it. They really make you feel like Kamoshida is just the absolute scum of the earth. And I even have a hard time remembering his name. Kaneshiro, the Yakuza guy. That like whole part of the story is like I remember it. I understand it. I can talk to you about it, but it feels pretty light, and it doesn't have the weight of other arcs. And
That's interesting, because I feel like that was the first one that I felt from a character perspective, it really raised the stakes. This is a guy who was not afraid to kill anyone. He'll kill you. He'll shoot you dead. He'll kill your family. Whereas, Kamoshiro or whatever is a gym teacher.
Yeah.
This guy means business.
Gangster.
So I thought I kind of escalated the stakes in that sense.
So I hear what you're saying, and I think that is a good point. My disagreement is, to me, that made Kamoshida so much more sinister because he was a gym teacher. The way that he was using that guise of innocence, that guise of authority, I thought was way more interesting than just the blatant and obvious blackmail of the Yakuza guy. I felt he just kind of there wasn't that twist for me that made it extra personal, extra devious. I just sort of felt like
it felt like
he was that character inhabiting that role.
Yeah, it felt like another episode of like just kind of like,
right.
not a side story, but like, all right, here's our mission for this week. Like, but the people though being the safes or whatever.
Yeah.
Yes.
That was really cool.
Yeah.
Yeah, visually that part was great. And what do you say, Baxter Stockman? His final form is really great. And I don't think that arc has some really good stuff in it. I think Makoto is an excellent character, and you really see her come into her own there. And yeah, I'll always remember that. That was great.
I got a few things.
Sure.
Kind of the very end of the game when Morgana kind of like fades away, then just comes back.
Yep.
I was like, what?
I agree.
So
I agree, Brad.
I was reading online, and the idea here is that Morgana went away because she was tied to the metaverse.
Yes.
But the physical form stayed because it was in the minds of all of those people. Like, their conscious recognition of Morgana's cat form is like what made it stay around. It's pretty fuzzy for me. I may not be getting that right.
I felt like they gave this like some epic send off, like goodbye. It felt really like emotional and everything like that. Then, just kidding, I'm back.
Yeah.
I was like, what?
I agree.
Yeah.
Because I was really emotional and invested. I was like, whoa.
Like, I feel like I'm nitpicking with a lot of stuff
No,
here, but
I
I'm just
don't-
trying to think of things that
that
like,
was
I
the
like,
one
what?
moment, Brad. That was actually the one
I agree-
moment
I
of
agree
the
with you,
entire
actually.
game
Yeah.
where I was a little disappointed.
Uh,
like, oh, that's-
Hubert, are you okay with spoilers for Persona 3?
yeah, feel free. I don't think I'll get back to Persona 3.
Here are spoilers for Persona 3. Skip ahead like a minute if you don't want to hear this. That's the ending of Persona 3 is really fantastic because the main character sacrifices.
Yeah, I think
himself.
I heard that. I heard that.
And
Actually,
himself or herself, I guess. And it really is super emotional because you feel like you've gone on this journey, but in order to see that journey through, you had to give something up. And before Morgana comes back, that's kind of what it felt like. You realize how integral Morgana was to these characters. That quest for humanity was so good.
Especially because Morgana is struggling the whole game of finding out where they belong inside the crew.
Right,
Yep.
right. And so I agree with you. I think I would have liked it more if Morgana didn't come back.
I felt like, I can't name down a specific point, but I felt like the part where Morgana gets back with the group after being with Haru, like, felt a little weird to me. I felt like
specifically,
like when Morgana leaves the group, the Phantom Thieves.
Oh, yeah.
And because Morgana and Ryuji are always kind of fighting, and I didn't feel like it felt genuine when they were back together. Something felt a little off to me. I can't remember specifically, but I didn't buy it at the time.
Well, Haru is a kind of a frustrating character for me in general.
I was going to say Haru is my other point.
I really like her personality. I like her idiosyncrasies. I like her style. But I felt like with every beat of her story, it didn't quite work. I actually really loved when you had Haru and Morgana being like this
the
competitive
opposite team.
Right.
Yes.
And I was like, oh, this is going to be a fun little story here where we're going to like have some banter back and forth between the two groups. But it really doesn't escalate too much, and they don't play with that tension. And I feel like Haru's stuff that she's dealing with, the arranged marriage that she has to go through, everything with her father being a total jerk. There's good material there, but I don't feel like they give it enough time or show it enough for it to really develop.
Speaking of
other
Haru,
characters.
Yeah, compared to other characters,
Especially,
yeah.
yeah.
Speaking of Haru, that was the thing. When the dad dies,
Yeah.
she's kind of like, she's
like distant.
She's
kinda.
sad and distant, but still kind of like, hey guys, like let's go Phantom Thief.
I
Like
totally agree
if
with
her
you. I
dad
totally
just
agree with you.
died like that, she would be like, guys, I'm done, or like, I don't know, maybe she could help, but I don't know. She seemed a little too
okay. Like,
Because-
little too okay.
Yes.
Little too okay.
The scene itself is actually horrifying. Like
Horrifying.
She and all these other people are watching this guy die on live television.
Yeah.
That's incredibly intense.
And then she
And then
leaves.
she's like, "This, I'm really upset by it, but we gotta keep moving on to the mission."
Yeah.
And it's just kind of like this
Like
coldness
she
to her response.
soldiers on, I
Yeah.
guess, but still, it was a little.
It just felt a little bit rushed. I think there are actually a few moments that were a little bit rushed.
Wait, is Morgana a guy or a girl?
Morgana's a guy.
Okay. That's what I
Yeah.
thought. Okay.
Yeah.
I think you
I
accidentally
think you said
she.
girl earlier,
I'm
so I
sorry.
was thinking
Yeah.
about it too. I was
You
like,
freaked me
I
out.
can't
There are a
remember.
couple of
Freaked me
characters
out.
when I first encountered them, I thought they were girls, and so I still
Yeah.
slip up on that.
I think there's dialogue.
Frieza is one of them. Morgana is one of them. So yeah, that was just a slip up.
I remember there being dialogue from Morgana, I'm pretty sure. And it's like, what do you think I am? And it's like, you can say a guy or girl. I'm like,
Oh.
a girl? He's like, no, you idiot. Like,
Yeah.
I'm a guy or whatever.
Just a slip of the tongue. The Goro Akechi stuff, real quick, I just wanted to say, I thought that stuff was really good, and I loved that fight. I loved the fight at the end with Goro. And
That's
the
my
sacrifice
favorite
that he
fight of
made.
the whole game.
But it did feel a little bit of a dump at the end
Yeah,
with all of
for
that
sure.
information.
They
and
kind
I-
of just throw it like all near the end. Yeah,
Yeah.
totally. My biggest complaint is Mementos.
Mementos in what way?
The act of going through the floors, it reminded me way too much of Tartarus. Like, it's better than Tartarus. There's actually some sort of, like, there's cool, like, context in there with, like, side stories and everything like it, which I like.
Love
But
all
I
the side missions.
am so sick of just going from floor to floor to floor to floor. I just got really burnt out on it.
By the end of the game, I was definitely like,
And there's, like,
Yep.
man, just put in another song in there, too. There's
Yeah.
one song. Do-do-do. And you hear that for hours and hours and hours.
another thing that got on my nerves is when you're riding along and you have like the little speech bubbles from the characters.
Yeah.
Like, oh, it's getting bumpy. Like at first, it's kind of fun and
Yeah.
cute. And then when you hear it for like the 30th time, it's just
Yeah.
kind of got on my nerves. I liked what they were trying to do with Mementos. Again,
I like the whole
finding space for
meaning
these
and the
stories.
message
Yes,
of it
like
all.
I think that's
But-
a really cool idea.
Yep.
Like
Yeah.
it's it's
Just
such
the
an
structure
improvement
of it is
over
just-
Tartarus and whatever 4 had. But yeah.
Is there a section dedicated to the cast, Ben? Because I just want to get into all these cast members.
Yeah, we can kind of take it character by character. There's one other kind of general point that I want to bring up really quick. We talked a little bit about how well they contextualized the themes with the layout and the look of the dungeons. We talked about how they contextualized them being thieves with different mechanical aspects. Another thing that I don't really see discussed all that often that I loved and I thought was so brilliantly handled is the way that they present online conversations.
Yeah.
Where I think it would have been easy for them, and they do this for like there are moments where society at large, a lot of moments where society at large is turning against the Phantom Thieves, and they talk about it, and they talk about how hard it is seeing all these people who don't know what's going on comment on this stuff. But the way that the comments are written on the fan site that you see during loading
LOLs
screens,
and yeah.
just how flippant they are, how just straight up nasty some of them are, how dismissive some of them are. It felt like real comments,
Yeah.
and it sort of played into this idea of misinformation and how technology can be used to paint a picture that's not accurate, and how frustrating it is to deal with when so many people are buying into it. It was just a little touch that the way that these comments kept changing, I thought was so interesting, and the language that they used was really, really good.
It made the whole world feel alive rather than isolated phantom thieves and their thieves and their targets, you know.
Right.
Then it became about the entire country.
Right, exactly.
Which was huge, yeah.
Exactly. But you wanted to get into characters. Is there any characters specifically that you wanted to jump right into?
All of them.
Okay.
The main characters.
Okay.
At
Main
least
cast.
a little bit. Yeah, main cast.
Okay.
I mean, we've talked a little bit about Morgana and Haru, obviously, but,
Yeah.
you know, we haven't talked about Ryuji.
We haven't talked about Ryuji. I think Ryuji is your favorite character. Is that true?
Playable, yeah. Him
Okay.
and Sojiro
Okay.
are my two favorites, for sure.
So what is it about Ryuji that you love?
He has a shotgun.
He has a shotgun, and he likes shotguns.
Yeah.
Oh, dude, Haru has the axe, man.
Yeah.
I was like, yeah.
He had a pipe though.
Yeah, he had the lead pipe.
Yeah.
Very Streets of Rage.
Very
This is, like,
WWF.
this is
I
excellent.
really like Haru's.
Yeah.
She's just
She's
the
awesome.
axe.
Oh,
her
It's so cool.
her persona, Milady, the
Yeah.
gun inside of it. It's so cool. Yeah, she's a really fun character to play as.
Oh, Ryuji, man. Obviously, I relate to this very loud character, probably the most, but he has a good moral compass, man. He just wanted to do good the entire game.
Yeah.
He was so selfless. Like, he can seem maybe self-absorbed on the outside, kind of. It's like he wanted kind of the fame at some parts. Like, he would get upset when the people would turn against him. He's like, no, we're doing good. But he was still all about getting the job done, doing the right thing, and not giving up. while also just being this free spirit, just good energy. I loved it.
Yeah, the good energy. He was a character that you really never had a moment where you felt like, oh, he's trying to cover up for something. Like, yeah, he's really loud, but he's always super honest with himself. And I think in a lot of things, right, you have kind of the loud, happy-go-lucky, super enthusiastic character. Mm-hmm. But I think he works especially well here because you have so many characters that are manipulative, that are lying, that are being deceitful to everyone around them, that are believing in a vision of themselves rather than the actual thing. And so I think he contrasts with that really well, and it makes sense that he's fighting against those things.
He definitely stood out in the group a lot, compared, especially Yusuke. Yusuke is the complete opposite of Ryuji.
Yeah. Yusuke,
because everyone's pretty cool and calculated a lot of times, but it reminds me of when you see the phone messages, the conversations, and everyone's just giving him a hard time the entire time. But he's doing his best, man. He's doing what he believes right. But
good
sometimes
intentions.
He always has good intentions. He just goes about it sometimes a way that
he doesn't
probably
think
shouldn't.
Things through.
Correct, yes.
At the end, after Shido's palace, where he tries to, I forget what exactly the sacrifice is, but he
the boat is sinking.
Yeah.
And he has to run up and hit a chain or something. Yeah.
That was a pretty stellar moment.
Yeah.
Ryuji.
Especially they're a character you get. He's the first party member you get, and they give him some development even at the very end of the game.
Yeah. I liked him.
And just the people on the track, giving him a hard time, and then he helps there's 3 track people, and then one of them is getting abused by the other 2, and then Ryuji kind of steps in and helps him out, and just kind of helps them all. Because the whole track incident,
he tries to help because he hits back at the teacher that was giving them a hard time, and in turn it ruined their team.
Yeah.
So he's he did a noble thing, honorable thing, protecting his teammates, but he gets punished for it.
Those moments, you see Ryuji deal with end of the world stuff pretty well, pretty resiliently, I would say. But those moments when you have his teammates come up and say shit to him and you see how much it breaks him, that's
super vulnerable.
It's effective. Yeah. It's very effective. The second character you mentioned was Sojiro. Talk to me about Sojiro. I
love Sojiro. This man.
Yes.
He's a kind man.
Yes.
kind
man
he's very stern.
Very stern.
Yeah.
Love the growth of the relationship between the main character and him, obviously. He has a very intense secret with Futaba. Futaba is his daughter, if you will.
He takes her in.
Adopted daughter. And just how he starts out, don't give me any trouble. Kind of a Shikamaru situation. Man, this is such a pain. This is all such a pain. Why do
lock up?
Yeah. Just him basically by the end becoming a part of the Phantom Thieves. You can use this as home base.
The interrogation scene where they're pumping him for information.
Yes.
And he never sells anyone out. I'm yes.
He's
dude.
I don't know.
Yeah.
Something about Sojiro, it's so good, is I feel like he's a character that goes well beyond the writing. I think it is very important that he's kind of an old, lanky, frail man. I think it's kind of important that he has a cool but kind of sleazy style about him.
Yeah.
And because I think as a viewer, when you see a character like that, you just kind of assume they're just burnt out on life. They're just cynical. They're just grumpy old men. But when you get invested in his storyline, you realize how much he's been through, how much he's sacrificed, how much he's still dealing with. And you learn that there's so much cause behind the way that he does things.
Yeah.
And that there's so much kindness in him. I thought it was a really good eventual slow burn, kind of burning away that surface and getting to what was underneath, which Persona 5 does so well, so often.
I mean, leveling him up is a real slow burn.
It is a really annoyingly slow burn.
Just living for Futaba, really trying to protect her and look out for her. Just coming home to LeBlanc every day. seeing him there was one of the most comforting sights.
Yeah, just like making
I've
coffee.
ever had in a video game.
Yeah.
Because, to be like Persona 4 as well.
Dojima.
Dojima is like my favorite character in that game. So it's similar, but also different.
Yeah, I
still,
have
like,
nothing but love for Dojima. I think,
Yeah.
for me personally, Sojiro is an even stronger character, in my opinion. Brad, how about you? Is there any characters that you want to pick apart here? Because Persona 5 really is about the characters
all
at the
about
end
it.
of the day.
I really liked Yusuke's storyline when he was going through like a struggling artist kind of thing like that, and you find out his master, what's Madarame, is plagiarizing all of his work.
Yep.
I thought that was a really impactful one because, man, just seeing like him struggle going through like his so-called writer's block and him working so hard and getting something great, then it just being stolen away from him, and he like refuses to fight back against it. He's very hesitant, and I thought that was like I don't know, it just really impacted me for some reason because like that does happen to people.
Yeah.
It's another one of those situations where I feel like this is a real life situation I could see happening.
Right.
Felt
I guess
like he owed Madarama or whatever.
Yeah,
just
for
from
taking
everything.
him in. Yeah, and he was like
like,
putting
I
him
don't-
down the whole time like that.
Persona 5 has a lot of moments where like they could have just stopped there and it would have been an effective story. Like you could have just stopped with Madarame abusing his students and taking their work as his own. And I love that in the palace you see his students in the frames. It's such a good visual thing. But then you like learn about what he did to Yusuke's mother, how he just like watched her die.
Yep.
He's just like, oh, I can just
And the painting, when you
she's
see the
out of here,
painting and everything
it's
like
like-
that. Oof. I liked that he was, I would say, socially awkward and didn't understand how to
Yeah,
handle situations. Especially like what we said with Ryuji,
Yeah.
like the complete opposite of each other. I thought their dynamics together were really good.
Yeah.
My favorite character is Futaba, I think, for sure. And it again, I think it's about the honesty with which they deal with her situation. A very tragic past where Futaba takes a lot of blame for her mother's death, somebody that was very near and dear to her, causes her to completely shut herself off from the world. And the way that goes through phases, where it's not like, hey, we've got this shut-in, we need to get her out into the world, we need to be her friends, and now that we're her friends, everything's okay and she can come and party with us. Like, it takes so much
time,
work.
yeah.
It takes so much time. And like the little things that she does, whether it's hiding behind the protagonist or wearing a mask,
Yeah.
or and then
The
because
scene
of-
at the beach, Ben, when she has the bathing suit.
right.
Is
That's such
such
a big moment.
Huge
It's
moment.
such a big moment.
She's like,
Yeah.
freeing herself. Oh.
Yeah, and just dealing with that agoraphobia, it was a really cool thing. I don't personally see that a lot. I don't like big crowds either, and so it was something that I definitely related to, and I loved her awkwardness. I loved her.
Yeah.
I think. Sorry, go ahead.
I love her attempts at like breaking out of that.
Right.
I think when she goes to that, I think it's like a convenience store, like electronics store.
Yeah.
And she kind of
Yes.
just has like a panic attack in the middle there.
Yeah, but then in her Confidant storyline, the strength that she's gained, she uses to help somebody else, and that's a really good payoff.
And her social link skills are 10 out of 10.
Yeah.
Insane.
Yeah.
Get
Really
that
good.
rainbow boost.
Um,
Whatever it was
Everything.
called.
Yeah, the buff for everything.
Oh,
Moral support, I think. Yeah. So good.
I'm curious to get your guys' opinion on this, because I think when you write a shut-in who's very into technology, who's very into video games, who's very into anime and manga, to write them in such a way that's like super annoying and just like nothing but a stereotype. And I feel like the way that they handle Futaba, I mean, she definitely uses jargon, she definitely is obsessive, but the way that they do it didn't feel flat. It didn't always feel like the easy way out. I love when they go in the room and they knock down like the Power Ranger figures,
Yeah.
and they try to put them back. She's like, "No, you did it all wrong."
Yeah.
Like that was such a good moment. Did you think, not only with Futaba but with the kid gamer as well, who's escaping? me,
Yes.
Did you think that the way that they presented that type of character was done well?
I'm bummed because I never finished that one. I
I
got
didn't
really
finish
far.
it either.
Either.
Oh, it was the
I did read up on it.
when
for
he
this.
lost to the guy is where I got to, so I
Yeah.
didn't get to see how that ended. I was so bummed. I was like, no. Social links, there's not enough time in the day.
Yeah.
The parallels to real life of Persona.
Yeah.
That's one of them.
Not enough time in the day.
Not enough time to
Not enough time in the day. Got to
take
choose.
your time.
Yep. it's like, what are you going to do? You're going to go fight and level up? You're going to go read a book and gain some knowledge? You're going to go build this relationship? What are you going to do?
I have a question, and it's a big one, and it might be the one that we end the show with. We've talked about it with Easy Allies. Kyle has brought it up, and I've seen other people bring it up, and I think it's a really good thing to think about and dissect. And so we've spent the last 50 minutes talking about how all of the ways that the things that we're going through as people, how real Persona 5 is, how relatable it feels, all the different ways that we can attach to it, all the different avenues, all the different characters that are going through different things that we can choose. We have the agency to see what storylines resonate the most with us. But you have this protagonist who is a character, but is also supposed to be an avatar for you. He's kind of this strange in-between. And you are limited in the types of relationships you can get involved in. You are limited with how your character looks. Do you think that is something that bothers you? Do you think it's totally fine? Do you think it's something that you would like to see somehow changed for the next Persona? What are your current thoughts on that?
I really enjoyed it. I loved it, in fact, because the problem I have with open world game storytelling is that by having too much freedom sometimes, it doesn't tell as focused of a story. Persona 5 is a very focused, specific story that they are telling, and it thrives because of that. And they give you options with your main character. You can sound so confident and stern, or you can also sound kind of confused and chill a lot of the time. There's options of yeah, we should definitely plan this attack, or I'm not really sure what we should do here. And he kind of that means he's kind of throwing it to the group. What do you all think? I don't really know.
Yeah.
So I thought that was enough. You're picking dialogue so many times.
So you're arguing for how strong the story is because of its focus, and that if you added more creator creativity within it, it would maybe feel a little bit like a one-size-fits-all in a weird way.
Yeah.
Do you think then the story would be even stronger if they gave the character more of a voice, more of a named person?
I was thinking that what if the character was had voice acting and everything like that?
Because you think about if you have a character like that, right? I think rather than having somebody where it's do I want to sound confident here or lazy or whatever it is, you have somebody who you don't get to decide the feelings of, is deciding their own feelings, and maybe that makes for stronger, more interesting responses because there's craft in what they're saying. Do you buy that?
Yeah, maybe, but I also it's kind of like a book, when you're reading a book, you're kind of imagining the world around you when you're reading it, but then in this, he's not talking, but your brain is moving fast enough to kind of fill in the gaps and everything of what he really is saying, So I love the balance of. I like him not talking, I guess. I don't know. I think it works in Persona. If you ask me, would you rather have a silent protagonist or a voiced protagonist? I'd probably say voiced, but I think in this instance, I think it works better.
So just trying to understand where you're coming from, you feel like he's written enough that he has personality befitting the detailed world and the detailed storylines, but is enough of a blank slate that you personally were able to easily insert yourself.
Yes.
Okay.
And he definitely has personality because, apparently he's too cool.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Where do you fall on this, Brad?
Apparently.
To me, his personality seems like all the Persona characters' personalities kind of are the same thing to me.
It's like a Bruce Wayne genius situation.
maybe because I play them the same way. I don't really know. They all kind of feel like the same personality.
Right.
Kind, caring, but strong enough to get their hands dirty, blah, 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 blah.
Yeah.
All that kind of stuff. If there was voice acting, I'd be okay with it.
Yeah.
I'm okay with that. If people want, you could change your t-shirt anytime or anything like that. That's fine with me. I'm okay with that. As far as decisions with characters, like what decisions do they want? Being able to romance other characters? I don't care. I'm fine with it. Whatever. Mm-hmm. So I'm fine with anything right now.
I think you kind of bring up where I fall on it, Brad, is for the most part, the way that the protagonist has been presented is very similar, if not nearly identical, in the last three
think
games.
of like if someone had pictures of all three of the protagonists from
Right.
the last three. They're like, describe this character from this character from this character.
Yeah.
It's like glasses, bolo tie,
Yeah.
and glasses again.
Yeah, I agree with you. I think there is a similarity, like in style and tone and everything with those three protagonists, that I think for the next Persona, I would like to see a shakeup. I would like to see them either go one way or the other. Either give me more flexibility or make it way more focused.
Female
and have a
protagonist
stronger...
for Persona 6 would be really cool.
Absolutely.
Yeah,
I
like
think it'd be
really-
fantastic.
if they did
Really
the
cool.
P3 portable treatment, we could be
Right.
both. I think
Right.
that'd be a cool idea.
Yeah,
That's cool.
I mean, the thing about that I loved about Persona 3 Portable is it wasn't just, okay, you look different and the menus are pink now. They actually changed how the relationships work. And I understand, I really do, that is a tremendous amount of work, but I think when you see the response...
2 games.
Yeah, it's too
Because
exactly.
think of all the cut, like the even the anime
Right.
cutscenes. You have to do that twice every time.
There are extreme practical decisions, and so I think in that sense, a more focused, just something so we're not having the exact same flavor of protagonist every time.
Yeah.
Think about the story you're telling and find a way to work around that, I guess, in my opinion. But yeah, it's easy to say just do it again, but absolutely.
Yeah,
they are very
logistically,
real.
I think they made a decision, which I totally understand.
Yeah.
So I'm not dead set firm on this, but I'm just thinking about the voiceless versus voiced, and it's like with voiced, maybe it's a little more passive, like I'm watching, versus voiceless, like I'm really in the mindset of the main character.
you.
You know, yeah,
It's
like
you,
when
yes.
I don't know if you said driving it, like you're driving it. You're.
Here's where it
So-
falls apart for me a little bit, and this is actually where I do think Kyle has a bit of a point. And Persona is not the only game that suffers from this by any means. It's like protagonist syndrome in a lot of things. You could do limitless examples, but there are moments in Persona 5 and the other Persona games where they're talking about the protagonist in such a fawning way, and I don't feel like their level of adoration matches what I've been doing as a player or as a character, where there's sort of like this reverence, this almost like deity-like quality to the protagonist that like that's interesting and you can play around with that, but sometimes I feel like it happens too quickly. Like, yeah, I helped you out with after school, you don't have to treat me like a god, and I think having a voice character potentially could make it be like, oh no, it feels like she's dealing with a real human being because there's somebody that can respond back and bounce off of them, and so it feels a little bit more
I
natural.
think
yeah.
Persona 5 did a better job at that, though, than the previous ones, especially because at the beginning of the game, no one likes you.
Yeah,
And you kind
I
of have
think-
to earn that.
Yes.
Like in P4, everyone's pretty jolly to you right up front.
Yeah. Brad,
Nanako.
I'm so glad you brought that up because it's not just at school. It's not just at the beginning of the game. I think that is something Persona 5 does very, very well, where I think within the group of the Phantom Thieves, they all pretty much love you. But in the outside world, like right up until the very end, the tides are turning. Like sometimes they hate you, sometimes they love you, sometimes they're not sure what to think
Even
about you.
Sojiro's nervous.
Right.
You know,
Yeah. Even
I'm harboring
Sojiro's
some
nervous.
criminal.
Like Sojiro's not on your side
Yeah.
until near the end of the game, and I do like that because there are so many games where you just kind of walk in and suddenly everybody loves you or everything's okay,
Yeah.
or you have the hopes and dreams of everybody, and that doesn't happen in Persona 5. Like seeing the approval meter like drain down is a pretty effective visual tool, I think. Yeah.
Ben, I think a lot of our viewers out there right now, a lot of them, would be disappointed,
Okay.
extremely disappointed, comment city, if we didn't talk about the relationships.
Like who
The
we
romantic
picked?
relationships.
The romantic relationships.
Absolutely.
Like who we picked? What
You
do you
guys
mean?
you guys can open this conversation. No, for me, I chose On strictly because she was like starting party. So I was already invested in On. Like I stuck with in my party most of the time Ryuji, Morgana, and On. Like I would mix it up. I would usually swap one or so out when it was like their dungeon, so to say, like
Yeah.
Yusuke's and Haru's, like I would have them join the party because it was like their dungeon basically.
Yeah.
But I still loved the core.
You had that connection
four.
from the beginning.
Yeah. So I was like, okay,
I love this commitment to like the beginning characters, your
Yeah.
starting crew.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That was me.
Who did you pick, Red?
I picked Makoto. Mm-hmm. I think a lot of it was I liked her design and her persona. Like it's a motorcycle. That's
Yeah.
pretty rad. I liked her story
Johanna.
of her friend in school kind of dating that host guy and dealing with all of that, like trying to look
Going on
out-
some like mission with her,
yeah,
dude.
you're like doing black ops with her, like pretending to be her boyfriend and everything
Yeah.
like that. I just thought it was really fun.
Yeah.
Perhaps the most adorable moment of the game is when she's trying to trail you guys for the principal, and she thinks she's being sneaky, and she's so obvious. She's
Yes.
just like hiding behind a book or something. It is adorable. It's amazing. Yeah. I actively went after Futaba first.
I pursued her.
Futaba and Makoto. Futaba because I just related to that character so hard and was just so invested in her storyline. I just thought Makoto was a badass. I
Yeah,
loved her
she's
stuff.
very cool.
Like her shift, her metaverse shift, her outfit, her motorcycle persona. I just thought it was just visually
So
right up my
rad.
alley. So rad. I got all the way up, but it like. Not actively. It just sort of happened. I just
Yeah.
sort of fell into it.
Yeah.
An is not one of my favorite characters. I don't hate her or anything like that, but the way that social or that confidant relationship
story.
developed
The
itself,
modeling and
really
her friend.
didn't care for it.
Yeah.
And thought she was I thought Ann was a very strong character early on, and then just kind of tapered off for me personally. So, but yeah, I got that social link all the way up.
Futaba. So you can relationship with her?
can.
Yes.
What does Sojiro say about that? Because when I maxed out Sojiro,
Yeah.
he was like, "Yo, don't get any ideas, man."
Yeah, it's a good question. I'm struggling to remember exactly how Sojiro deals with you. I think he like begrudgingly accepts it, but
Okay,
I'm
okay.
not 100%.
I guess
on
yeah.
that.
He's like, "All right, you're family now, I guess."
Right.
So
Yeah. But I thought Futaba's storyline with her friend that was being abused was handled really well, and I liked that storyline a lot overall.
I also have one last thing before, if we're wrapping up, a huge moment in the game.
As long as you got stuff to say,
Okay.
keep going.
One of the biggest moments, Brad and I thought we got the bad ending. We did something wrong.
Oh, yeah.
When Akechi silenced pistol.
Oh, we didn't talk about this.
to
How do we not
the
talk about
head.
this? How do we not talk about this? This is one of the biggest
Shoots
moments
his
of
head.
the whole
I was like,
game.
Yeah. I was like, what happened? Like, am I dead? Am I going to have to
It was
be
very light Yagami
Yes,
right there.
So Death Note. So Death. I was like, what the hell?
That twist was amazing. When you see
Insanity.
Akechi just come in, Stone Cold Killer,
Yeah.
point blank,
Murder.
it was so good. And I actually thought the way that they handled the twist with Sae showing him the phone, I thought that was like pretty well thought out. I thought it was clever, and I thought the moment itself was so effective. Like you thought the game was over.
Yeah.
And then it was going to end.
Well, I
then.
thought he was dead, and then I'd
Right.
be the rest of the crew.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Insane moment. Insanity.
It was
Yeah.
a great moment.
And that's really when things get heady Inception
Like
style.
towards the finish line,
Yeah,
I would say.
that point on is, I tried. There were a couple times where I was like, wait, what? Like consciousness and like perception and
Yeah.
them. No, screw it. I'm just going. It's like, I didn't want to
Yeah.
nitpick the little details, because it got so crazy.
Right. Yeah, I sort of agree with you. Like we were talking about with Morgana and I keep saying her, his cat form sticking around. Like the way that they try to justify that and some of the metaphor stuff, it does get a little bit fuzzy. But I'm always willing to forgive those little things, those little moments where they don't quite add up.
Yeah.
If the big moments do feel so impactful.
Yeah.
And I thought the Igor scene and the Akechi kill you scene were just so well framed, so well presented, an appropriate amount of build-up, an appropriate amount of like leaving you hanging, that because those moments sold me so hard, I didn't have to think too much or pick apart the logic of the metaverse too much. Yeah.
And just that storytelling device. Like, it's kind of been overdone a little bit, you know. Anime likes to do it. Boruto did it with episode 1. They show the future, but then they go to the past.
I hate it.
But I really thought it was effective, him being interrogated by Sai.
Yeah.
Because he was telling her the story.
Yeah.
So all I really knew was that, like, a job goes wrong and I get busted. So
Yeah.
it wasn't a spoiler and it didn't give anything away. But every time it went back, it was so mysterious. I love when the guy is interrogating you, beating you up. I just kept doing the silent option. Didn't say a word. It felt so intense. It was like ... He's like, are you going to sign it or not?
Right. ...
He's
Right.
like, I see how it is playing silent. He's like beating you up.
It leaves you with a lot of anticipation as the player because you know, like, we're going to get into this horrible situation eventually. And that
and
tension that's just sort of hanging there is great.
Yeah.
I will say
and at that point wasn't the end of the game. You know, there was still so much after.
I will say something that I didn't like. And I don't know if you feel this way either, but when you do form a new confidant relationship, how it would also do that flash forward and be like, tell me about this guy.
Yes.
And you say almost nothing about them. And so it to me, it just, it wasn't really needed.
Yeah, true.
And I think,
True.
I think it would have been an even more effective tool if they didn't do the confidant part.
Yeah.
Because like they really said almost nothing about those characters in those moments.
It was cool though at the very end when the max social links come to like the big square, you know?
Yes.
That part was really
like,
powerful.
I'm only here because you got me up to the max rank. Yeah.
I'm actually never a fan of when any type of media does that, like flash forward kind of thing, because I don't want to know that that's going to happen. Like, I knew when I was at the casino level, I'm like, there's going to be a big botch. It kind of ruined the Akechi betrayal for me. I just don't like when media or anything does that. Like, I hated it in Final Fantasy 15. I wish they didn't do that either.
Yeah.
I'm never a fan of it.
I actually think...
But it was it wasn't the end of the game, which helped a ton.
Exactly.
This is not the Final Fantasy 15 spoiler cast, but that whole, like...
Because it's
brief enough to be annoying.
Yeah.
It, like...
It's saying it's more important than it is by doing it. Yes. It's like, yo, look at this. This is what I like. It's weird. Yeah, it's bad intentions.
It's gonna be good. Just keep playing.
Yeah, it's bad intentions in that.
Yeah,
sense.
I did not.
But
like
I thought Persona 4 was good. Or Persona 5, I thought it was good intentions.
Yeah. So. All right. I think we've covered a lot of ground. I think whenever we shoot these things, I'm always paranoid because I feel like we forget something huge.
Well, it's never enough. It's a 100-hour video.
Yeah, this game is humongous, so it's gonna happen.
It's huge. But hopefully you enjoyed our discussion. I think. Everybody brought something to the table. I enjoyed the discussion. So I hope that's
it was fun.
Persona 5 is my game of the year right now. So that is how much I love this game. And
I'm currently enamored with Divinity, so we'll see. But
you know, I think of stories when I think of games from my past more than anything. You know, I think of the
stories
story.
are the kind of thing I feel like that stays with you the most.
That stays with me the most.
Yeah.
That emotional impact. You know, The Witcher 3 10-year anniversary video was an epilogue to The Witcher 3, and it was like, time is fleeting, memories last forever.
Yeah.
And I think that applies to Persona 5. I will never forget my time with this game.
Yeah.
Ever. Because of the journey that me and the cast
and it was
went
a really long journey, so there's a lot.
It was a long journey. There's a lot to unpack. Yeah.
I think it was a great journey. I think I got really invested with the characters. But this is something that I can say about a lot of games. The thing that I will take away from Persona 5 is not only was it a great journey, not only did I love the characters, not only did I have fun playing it and going through these ridiculous locations, but it made me think about my own life and the world around me, and in a very hard and serious way, where it made me think about things like depression. It made me think about things like agoraphobia. It made me think about things like abuse. And I want more of that. I want games to be challenging and talk about things that are going on in the world. Even if I don't agree with it, I think it is more important to be challenged and to think than to just have nothing at all.
I liked that it wasn't all just doom and gloom, though.
Absolutely.
You know, because if it was just that might be a little too much for me.
Yeah.
Heavy game.
Heavy game.
Yeah, it's a heavy game.
Love trying to stop bullies in it, too. That was good.
Yeah.
A lot of bullies in Persona 5.
Yeah, well, I can't wait for us to get back around this table in the year 2020 to discuss Persona 6.
Oh,
It'll be a good
2023,
time.
baby.
I was looking at the order of release and the gap between 4 and 5.
Humongous.
2008
Humongous.
to 2017.
Because I played Gold when it was Golden, like 11 or 12.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, that's
Wow.
still
Whenever
big.
the Vita came out.
Yeah. But I played Golden
It was,
even late.
yeah, I think it was 2012.
Played Golden way late.
Cool. Well, thank you guys so much for the discussion. Michael Huber at the end there, Bradley Ellis. If you want more of this, I know one thing I want to say. I realize that this episode is coming much later than many of you want, and I think that's fair. I think that's a fair feeling to have. But we do want to do these, and I think with these, it's better to get as many people as possible who have finished the game, like really finished it, really played it, to try to raise that level of discourse up just a little bit. So if there is a spoiler mode that you're waiting, I'm not guaranteeing that it's going to happen, but, just bear with us.
And it's mostly about the story, too,
It is.
Like Legend of Zelda Breath of the Wild, my second favorite game of the year so far. I don't think really a spoiler mode, I mean, there's story there, but...
Right.
Did we do something on that?
Like,
We did with the Zelda talk.
Damiani Zelda talk. But, like, I don't know if I could sit down for 90 minutes to talk about just the
It's
story.
a completely different game. The story we would talk about is our stories
Our
going
journey
through the world.
through
Yes.
it. True. But yeah, I think it depends on the game for spoiler cast, is what I was
Yes. We have some
Spoiler
ideas.
mode.
Yeah. Well, you'll never see it coming, everybody. Until next time.
You never see it coming.